A very warm welcome to the art vlog, art lovers. I'm here in 81 Old Brompton Road in South Kensington to bring you an exhibition that isn't the usual thing that I cover, but it's been recommended by a viewer that I come and see this exhibition. So thank you very much, because this exhibition is called Seeing Auschwitz, and it promises to bring together photographic evidence of the horrors that occurred in Poland in the 1940s. This exhibition is only on until the 29th of January, but hopefully this video will provide a record of it. And it's just over £13 to get in, including the booking fee if you book online. I'm going to take you inside and show you as much as I can of the exhibition, and then share my thoughts. After picking up an invaluable audio guide, you're given some context about Auschwitz and its place within the unspeakable horror of the Nazi genocide. The first piece of evidence that we're presented with actually comes from the lens of an unknown Nazi photographer who on one day in 1944 recorded the arrival of a transportation of Hungarian Jews. This became known as the Auschwitz album, and is incredibly important visual evidence, neatly compiled, as you can see here in a photographic album, of the horrors of what went on at Auschwitz. The photographer clearly had free rein because they set up angles and take visual pictures from lots of different areas. But the exhibition asks us to look beyond this official view of a well-ordered camp at the stories of the most important people in these photographs. And this, for example, horrid conversation between a recent arrival and a camp prisoner is an example of that. You can only imagine what is being said in these brief seconds. The exhibition is very clear that the photographer is a willing participant in the horrors of Auschwitz. There's no attempt to hide what's going on. In one photograph, not this one, gas chambers are visible in the background of this, and so they are culpable just by taking these photographs. The most horrific photo for me was the Birch Grove, where a group of women and children, unknown to them, have unfortunately been selected to be going straight to the gas chambers. And so much about the discovery of the album by a survivor called Lily Jacob, or Lily Jacob, who was liberated and staying in an former SS quarters when she found the album and quickly realized that the photos were taken on the day she arrived at Auschwitz. And she saw some of her relatives, including her brothers, who perished. And the Auschwitz album is a really important record for some of the survivors about what happened to their own families. Despite the existence of the Auschwitz album, the Nazis were at pains to conceal the crimes that they were committing at Auschwitz and other death camps. Despite this, some bits of evidence were smuggled out, and the exhibition is at pains to show these in as many different ways as it can. And a real strength for me of the exhibition was that it seemed to almost be gathering up every bit of visual evidence available, and it 100% enhanced my understanding of the horrors that occurred in the 1940s at this hideous place. Some of the most important photographs on display are these urgent works taken by Sonderkommando. These were works units made up of prisoners who had to do horrific jobs, including removing bodies from the gas chamber. These photographs were probably taken using a camera found in the suitcase of the dead. Alberto Herrera was the photographer, and these are urgent, fleeting encounters of the actual horror. Some of them are blurred, some of it is very, very hard to make out. Others, like this photograph, is not. These photos were smuggled out by camp resistance in an attempt to tell the world what was going on behind the barbed wire of Auschwitz. There are also drawings on display from the artist David Allaire. Only a handful people survived Auschwitz who had witnessed atrocities firsthand, especially in the gas chambers. But David Allaire was a trained artist, and after the war he was so malnourished he could barely speak, but he provided these crucial witness drawings of what he had seen, to add to our evidence of the horrors. The exhibition also shows us a series of mugshots of some of the prisoners. Only prisoners who survived, who were not chosen for selection to the gas chambers, have their images recorded as they were brought into camp life. And again, the exhibition tells us of the miracle of these mugshots surviving, because the Nazis ordered them to be burnt, but over 30,000 survived thanks to the bravery of some of the resistance. Another historical source, which I wasn't aware of before the exhibition, was the album of Karl Hocker, or Hoker, I don't know how to pronounce it, who was basically administrative assistant to the head of Auschwitz. And his album shows the normality of Nazi life, which kind of backs up Hannah Arendt's idea of the banality of evil. 8,000 SS men and 2,200 women worked at Auschwitz, according to the exhibition. And these photographs show the the fact that there was a retreat near Auschwitz where officers and other Nazis spent their downtime, seeming to have a jolly time, and yet the exhibition makes out that Hooker knew exactly what was going on, and that makes these images even more sickening. The selection of photographs in the section entitled "The World That Was Lost" are especially poignant and moving. These photographs were taken of predominantly Jewish families before the war, and in the 20s and 30s, and in some cases earlier. And they remind us of what Europe lost when the communities from which these photographs were taken were ripped apart. I always find when I go to cities all over Europe, like Budapest or Krakow, that there are these holes left where these communities once were, and these photographs remind us very deeply of that. There's also a brief section on the fact that, by 1944, the Allies had evidence of Auschwitz, but their primary purpose was not to necessarily stop the Holocaust, but to win the war. And so the camps were not bombed, they were not disrupted in the way that they could have been. There's also a section on the death marches, basically as the camps closed because of impending Russian invasion. The survivors were force marched west into Germany, and there's a very rare photo taken by someone who just witnessed these prisoners going past, and also some imagery as well. And this is followed by a section entitled "Gathering the Evidence," which explains what happened when the Soviets liberated Auschwitz and what they found, and this particularly chilling picture of a Soviet investigator being shown this horrific clump of human hair. The final section reminds us that unfortunately genocides have occurred since the end of the Second World War, and urges us that we all have a responsibility to protect. Overall, I mean, I know this exhibition is closing in London at the end of the week. I found it an incredibly valuable reminder of the horrors of Auschwitz. I wish every single person in Britain could have seen it while it was on. I visited Auschwitz 3 times and taken groups there, and I still learned a huge amount. And it was really important for me to visit in the month of Holocaust Memorial Day and Holocaust Remembrance Day, which is actually on the 27th of January this year. So I was very, very glad I went. It's always so important that we keep that memory of what happened alive.